Good morning. This is Adina slash Charlotte um, broadcasting. Oh, broadcasting? Recording in Israel. We have the sun coming around into a different position. So I've repositioned myself. And these recordings are being done for Frank because we discuss these things that I'm talking about. And he says, "Oh, I want that. I want a copy of that. I want that down." So here we go. We're going to start today with building this nation. We want to see some of the details that go into God building a nation. Because what he does for Israel, in some respects, he will be doing for all the 70 nations that'll be on the earth. So we're going to start with Abraham, who was called by God to be a nation, his special nation. However, even though Abraham is the father of Israel, he is also the father of many nations. Okay? So he is not the specific one that is focused on for building the nation of Israel. And neither is Isaac. Abraham's blessing gets passed to Isaac, but Isaac has two sons, and he wants both of them to be blessed. And God says, no, I can only choose one of them. So one of them is chosen, and that's Jacob, Yaakov in Hebrew. And Jacob then is given the blessing that was passed from Abraham to Isaac, and then from Isaac to Jacob. And his blessing is different than the blessing that Isaac gave to Esau. We won't go into all of that, but one thing we do have to discuss a little bit is the firstborn issue. Esau, though he was a twin, was firstborn, and he had certain rights as a firstborn that were abdicated because he didn't act like a firstborn. Now, firstborn gets double portion of all that the father has, because when the father leaves the earth to go to his fathers again, this person is going to take care of the family and all of the economic stuff that they build up, all their values, all their everything that they have, both spiritually and physically. So it's a big responsibility to be firstborn. So now we get to Jacob, and this is the one that God's going to build. And Jacob goes to outside of the land to get a wife.
Right.
Also because he's running from Esau, because he's afraid. But we have to look at some of the things that he broke, some of the laws he broke. You say, well, the law wasn't given. The law is established in heaven with God long before it's given in Mount Sinai to Moses. So it says in Genesis 26:5 that Abraham kept God's charge, and the word keep, and charge, well, the charge means God commanded something. Kept means to protect it and to do it.
Yeah.
So the shield of Abraham, we think of a warrior, but the shield of Abraham was that he kept and watched over the commandments of God.
Guarded.
So when you hear shield of Abraham, think of Abraham guarded the commandments of God. So Genesis 26:5 says, kept God's charge, commandments, laws, and teachings. And this covers the whole thing. He was also told, when he looked over Sodom and talked to Hashem said, shall I tell him what I'm going to do? And then he reasoned, yes, there must have been one of the other angels standing there. Yes, I'm going to tell him because Abraham will teach these things to his children. So all the commandments and laws and teaching were then passed down to Isaac and then to Jacob. And probably Esau heard him too, but it was a little heavy duty for him. Okay. Isaac, or Jacob then, is, first of all, he's outside the land. So he's breaking one of the laws about family matters. It says in Leviticus 18:18, do not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have sexual relations with her while your wife is living. So the Jews like to talk about this a lot, and there's no direct decision as to whether he did the right thing or not. Some say, well, because he was outside the land, the law didn't apply. Okay, I'm not sure that God necessarily saw it that way. But anyway, these two sisters marrying Jacob became a source of problems for him. Okay, another one is Deuteronomy 21:15, another law that he should have considered. If a man has two wives and he loves one but not the other, and both bear him sons, but the firstborn is the son of the wife he does not love, when he wills his property to his sons, he must not give the rights of firstborn to the son of the wife he loves in preference to his actual firstborn. The son of the wife he does not love, okay, that first, I didn't complete the sentence, sorry. He must acknowledge the son of his unloved wife as firstborn by giving him a double share of all he has. That son is the first sign of his father's strength. The right of the firstborn belongs to him. Okay, what happened was he had these 12 sons by these two wives and their maids.
Yeah.
And Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, 1 Chronicles 5:1 says, he was firstborn, but when he defiled his father's marriage bed, his rights as firstborn were given to the sons of Joseph of Israel. So he could not be listed in the genealogical record in accordance with his birthright. And though Judah was the strongest of his brothers and a ruler came from him, the rights of firstborn belonged to Joseph. So right here now is where we have a division in the family. And Joseph is this firstborn of Rachel in the true sense of the word, because she, her maiden had a son before that, but Jacob was her firstborn. I mean, Joseph, sorry. So Jacob really loved this child. He really wanted him to be the firstborn in the family. We have this law. So because Reuben does something that he's not supposed to, and then there's a lot of argument about what that really meant, what it means to go up on his father's bed. It sounds pretty obvious to most people. But there's one group of commentators say, well, he just moved the bed out of the house of his mother when she died, and because I don't know. It's complicated. But I take it the way it says, that he was doing something that was really quite wrong. And so his father says, you're not getting the firstborn. You see, a firstborn not only has this blessing, but he has to be trained and learn how to handle his father's things. And that is both spiritually and physical in this family, because God's going to make them a nation that's supposed to be an example. Okay? So firstborn Reuben loses out. Secondly, the next ones are Shimon and Levi.
Mm.
But the two of them went and killed all the people in
yeah.
Shechem after making this agreement with him. And that was really bad in Jacob's eyes. So he says, they're not getting it. Now, after them, it's down to Judah.
Yeah.
But he still has his eyes on Joseph.
Mm.
And we know this by the story because Joseph gets this beautiful coat.
Yeah. Mm.
And they all know that his father favors him. The beautiful coat of many colors, that means it was more colors than anybody else in the family, which denotes rulership.
Okay. Interesting.
It denotes priority.
Hmm.
And so they weren't really happy with him. And he's just this young kid at 17. They're grown adults with families, some of them. And they're actually taking care of the sheep, which is the money in the family. And he has dreams that indicate that he's going to be the ruler.
Right.
Well, even this disturbed Jacob with the second dream because Jacob and his wife, whichever one was left, I think it was Leah, are bowing down to him. Now, father isn't supposed to be bowing down to son. That's not. So that kind of disturbed him a bit. And Joseph is puffing him up a little bit. He thinks, oh, good, I've got a real position. Heaven's told me, and my father's given me this coat, and I'm in pretty good position to get this, okay? What's one of the things that Frank has asked, and I've never heard anyone else ask, why did Jacob, knowing the strained relations between the sons, why did he send them to look after his brothers?
Yeah.
Why did he send them up there instead of a servant?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know why, but he got sent. Now, maybe Jacob was trying to test him to see if he had the stuff in him to be the firstborn.
Yeah, or to see if he could.
Or maybe to mend.
Or something.
Yeah, you never know what was his motive behind it. So this shows that there is a rift in the family, because Jacob, the other sons of Jacob that are from the other wife, gang up on him, throw him in a pit where there's scorpions and snakes, and the kid's terrified.
Mm-hmm.
And then Judah steps in and says, don't kill him, because the others wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't sound like a very holy nation or holy people. So it shows you that God can take the most unholy and do something with it. And we still haven't seen that final result yet. And so everybody is still upset with him. But what comes out of this is, poor Joseph, he is scared spitless, we call it. And he's crying. Now, where do I get some of this? They have midrashes. And then there's the book of Jashar. Yashar means straight, the straight talk. That is not all accepted by the Jews. However, I find many of their midrashes have the same stuff in it. So anyway, he is crying. He's feeling sorry for his father. He doesn't want to go to Egypt. He's crying for his mother. I mean, this kid is not taking this too well. But the Ishmaelites and the Midianites, both groups think this kid is really good looking.
Yeah.
He's a good specimen for selling in Egypt. So he gets into Egypt. Now, one of the things that helps Joseph is that he remembers the end goal, that God says, that he's going to rule over his brothers. And he remembers the commandments, the laws, enough that his morality cannot be broken down. He's put through a lot of tests. So, but out of all of this, God did not make the nation or start the nation in Canaan, where Canaan, the land where they were going to be theirs. All of this stuff that was done wrong has to be rectified. It all has to be straightened out. They have to get so off to Egypt. Whenever the Jews do not do the right thing, God kicks them out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he put it very nicely. He says, your descendants, he said to Abraham, your descendants are going to sojourn in Egypt, and they'll be there a long time, and they'll become slaves, and then I'll bring them out. He doesn't say to Abraham that it's a punishment, but it is. It really is a punishment. It's something to straighten them out with. And so into Egypt they went, and it seems like they could have come back after Joseph was no longer the ruler.
Mm-hmm.
When he died, they could have come back then, but they didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
By that point, life in Egypt must have become quite nice. And Goshen was really good land, and they could grow stuff, and their sheep and the cattle were doing well. Why would you go back to that land where they had droughts every 7 years, So they didn't come back, and then Egypt sees this as an opportunity. These people are strong, and they'll overtake us. We better enslave them some way. So they figure out a way to do it. So now we know what the womb is like, because this is how the nation is born. They're in Egypt as 12 sons with their families. 70 in all went down there, counting Joseph and his 2 sons. And we'll take it from there next week.